Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Today, I'm here with my good friend Keisha. How are you doing, Keisha? How are you?
I'm doing great. Yourself?
Not too bad. I'm glad that we can have this conversation. I was really looking forward to this.
Awesome. So am I. It's gonna be great.
Yep. So Keisha has been an entrepreneur for a decade with multiple businesses, from coaching and speaking to HVAC and contracting, and has written multiple books. She empowers people from all walks of life to not only embrace tough circumstances in their lives, but to use those circumstances to empower them to thrive. First off, I would like to ask, what is your definition of leadership?
Leadership. My overall definition of leadership is the person who is strong enough to go ahead, to make the tough decisions, to bring that change. But once you've had that change, you don't just keep that change to yourself. You find others and you find areas in society that need those skills that you have and the wisdom that you have acquired, because you cannot become a leader, you cannot go through difficult challenges and overcome them and not gain wisdom from them. So it's that person who goes in front, they do the thing that has never been done in their family, and then they go back and they find the individuals who are willing to take that route or a similar route, and they provide them with all the wisdom and guidance that's needed to do what that individual needs to do or that group needs to do. So, there's leadership in different areas. It can be in family. You can be a leader in your family, but in your community, you're not such a great leader, but it doesn't make you less of a leader.
I love
So
that.
it's just knowing where you fit.
Mhm. I love that your definition of it. I mean, so many times as many people think as leadership as like, oh, I'm on the top, I get to kind of hoard everything.
Yes,
But you're saying it's like,
yes,
hey, it's our job to really help others, and I definitely agree with that. I mean, it's being at the top is kind of useless if you don't really share the love.
definitely. Because if a lot of the people at the top, if they were sharing of themselves, we see it more now where people at the top, they're sharing and they're, providing insight and wisdom.
Mm.
But if a lot of what we see today, if it was being done 30, 40, 50 years ago, I think leadership in what we see in the total landscape of our countries would be a whole lot better.
Yeah, I wasn't born back then, but I've heard a lot of stories about that too. How it's changed a lot in the last like 50 years or so, and
Yes,
I was told that everyone's more open to helping each other as well, so which is kind of nice.
definitely. It is.
What do you think are some common leadership mistakes?
Listening. Most leaders refuse to listen. That's one. And the second one is they stick to the old method. They refuse to change. And the crazy thing, it goes back to listening, because if you listen, change will happen naturally. It doesn't have to be cultivated. Oh, yeah, okay, I need to do this change. No. If you listen to the people around you, the people you're serving, the people who are serving with you,
Mhm.
then the change can be gradual and it will be accepted easier, because it's not like, oh my gosh, you have to start doing this now. But if you listen to the little things, and sometimes people will say things to you and they'll say it and you hear it, but you didn't listen. Because when we start listening to what others are saying to us, we're getting a deeper, a stronger message, because we're hearing what you're giving me versus what I need from you. So that's the reason why listening for me is the number one area where leaders fail, especially leaders who were once on top and they've just totally disappeared from the face. Like, what happened to them? They didn't listen. They didn't go with the time.
Yeah, I've asked multiple questions to multiple leaders too, and they say the same exact things. Like, yeah, no one ever listens.
No one listens. Like, what's the deal with listening? Like, because what we don't understand a lot when we're having a conversation,
Mhm.
we need to realize that people are sharing their hearts.
Mhm.
And the easiest time to get someone to share their heart is in a casual conversation.
Mhm.
If you make it too formal, so let's do a company, a Fortune 500 company,
Mhm.
and okay, fine, we're going to be having a employee meeting, and the CEO or the CFO will be coming in.
Mhm.
Most employees are not going to say how they really feel
Mhm.
in that meeting because they fear losing their job. So when the easiest way is to just have a regular conversation, step
Mhm.
out of where you are, step out of your place of position where, oh, I am superior, and just have a regular conversation. They have that there's that show that they have, I think it's on MSNBC, Undercover Boss. And
Mhm.
that's the reason why they do it, because
Mhm.
they cannot hear what is really happening and be able to make changes unless they go down and have that heart-to-heart conversation. Because if we're having a casual conversation, I'm going to be sharing more of what I'm missing, more of what I'm lacking, versus if we try to make it all formal.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. I mean, it's pretty sad that people can't really like open up to whoever they need to get something done for that fear. It's like very depressing.
It is. And that's why you have so many employees who are unhappy, and we call them disgruntled employees, because they're unhappy and they try to communicate, but it's not going across.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely gets hard. I think I've heard people are trying to stories of people trying to, I guess, portray that message, but due to the lack of listening, they just get shot down. That's a hard part too. A
Definitely.
lot of leaders are like, they'll ask for new ideas, but they shoot every single one down. Like,
No, that's not.
I didn't even ask.
Yeah. Versus asking a simple question, okay, so what's your purpose for giving me it? Because if you provide an idea to me and it's something that I've never thought about before, my question to you is going to be, why do you suggest that? Because you must be seeing something that I'm not seeing, one, or what I'm communicating to you, you're not understanding. So it's simple. Before you say no, as a leader, before you say no, and it doesn't have to be with employees. Sometimes it can be people working together in a team. It can be a church. It can, whatever it is to ask the question,
Mhm.
why? Okay, why do you suggest that? What's your background information? Why you're suggesting that we should do something like that? And that's all it takes.
Yeah, I've been in a few improv classes, and I didn't know that a lot of them go to do a lot of corporate training, and they do a lot of training for this very reason, for the lack of listening and the sense that like the team member always gets shut down automatically, and so they try to switch that mindset from like a yes but to a yes and so every time you're in improv, they always say you cannot say no, you always have to say yes and whatever you want to say. So it'd be yes, and here's what we have to do next in a corporate more setting. And as I was just doing exercise, like, wow, it makes a lot more sense. It's very more cooperative, and although you may not be able to get to do the thing, but it still gets you along that continual progress as well.
Yes, and it could be where that person may see something that it's feasible, but it's not feasible in the immediate moment. It's further down the line that it's going to be feasible to them.
I definitely too.
Yes,
And
I like that one. Yes, and.
yes, I know your background's in technology. How's that helped you become a better leader?
So one of the things that I've noticed with technology and leadership, it's you can easily become outdated. So with technology, when I started out, one of the very first programming language I learned was Visual Basic. And it was just pretty simple, not complicated. It did what it did. But then evolution started and different, and then we started doing more of Oracle and the merging, and then we started Java and all these things. But if you don't change with the new technology as it comes in, you become outdated, you become yesterday. That's why a lot of times people don't like dealing with government, because their systems a lot of times are outdated. Like, really, you should have stopped using that 30 years ago. Why are you still even using that today? Leadership is the same. And 2020 was a year that a lot of leadership was shut down because they did not know how to embrace change, because we could no longer be in a room having a meeting. We had to do this virtual. And if you weren't willing to change as quickly as COVID-19 happened, you were just as outdated as a 20, 10, 30-year-old computer program. So it's very similar. For me, I see the parallel in them, and you have to constantly evolve. The way you led 10 years ago, the current people that you have in front of you, you can't lead them in the same way, because there's a lot more information out there. So you can't, okay, fine, I'm just going to give them this bit of information and no more. That's not going to work in this age. You have to tell them the whole thing and let them make the decision for themselves. So it's definitely, I see both of them very similar, and in the similarities of it, I see where you can become obsolete very quickly.
Yeah, I love that analogy. That's so true. The thing about the having the blockbuster to
yes,
to Toys R Us.
Netflix, and we have all these different things, definitely.
I know that you're a big proponent of financial literacy, and used to be a co-host of a financial show.
Yes.
What do you think companies or leaders drop the ball when it comes to finances?
Planning. Financial planning is the one thing that a lot of companies fail to do. A lot of times companies tend to look at the balance sheet. But in looking at the balance sheet, it's telling you about the past. It doesn't help you for the future. As I said, the past is a history. Future is a mystery. All we have is today. So yes, you have the past information, you have historical information, but are you using that historical information and plan on how you're going to take care of today and the plans that you have for tomorrow? So they fail in planning. That's number one. Number two, one of the things that company leaders tend to do, their view of money, of their money personally, they tend to bring it into the business. Whatever aspect of business it is, they tend to bring that same personality into business. So that's why you'll have an organization who at some point or the other, or even, we see it a lot with politicians, where they'll use money allocated for campaign fund for their personal use. But if you check it out, they use their personal money in the same way. There's nothing budgeted like, okay, these are the expenses that must be taken care of first. This is what I'm saving for retirement. This is what I'm tithing or giving to, a nonprofit organization by giving back. They don't do that. So the same way they handle their personal money and the finance and the projection for their personal self, they tend to do the same thing for the business.
That's pretty interesting. I definitely agree with both those. I know when I was with New York Life, part of my job was to help people with their finances, and no one ever really planned. It's like, it's interesting. It's funny because people think that, money's coming in, they're gonna be totally fine. doesn't really work that way.
That's it. That's it. And it doesn't. And they don't put away anything for, and that's why you have companies like Apple who they can, even though they're the leader and they do so much,
Mhm.
and you rarely, I mean, personally, I have not heard of an Apple employees who, it's just constantly bickering about finances, about what they pay them. So
Mhm.
obviously they're getting paid, something nice. But when you look at that company also, you see where they can stack their chips, they stack their money to the point that a lot of times their stock grow. I mean, it's one of the stocks that in the last couple of years has the most split to the benefit of its investors.
Mhm.
While you have other companies who they're going bankrupt because they didn't do proper planning. And when a season hit where they weren't popular, they went under because they had nothing in reserve to take care of those periods where the revenue wasn't as high.
What do you think is a good safety net, like emergency savings for businesses?
I personally think a business should have 1 year of emergency savings. And that 1 year should take care of salary and all business expenses. Look at the last year. I mean, like, we're in January now. Things really started getting crazy right at the end of February, early March. That's 1 year.
Mhm.
A lot of these companies, by month 2, they were screaming.
Mhm.
Like, it wasn't that, oh no, we're suffering. No, in the second month, we're dying.
Mhm.
And some of these companies, they weren't companies that were just open. It wasn't just small businesses. A lot of them were big corporations also that had to start downsizing.
Mhm.
So a lot of times we put out too much
Mhm.
too soon to say, okay, fine. Oh yes, we're projecting that we're going to get this in, but what exactly are you using as your projection? You're using the historical data from last year.
Mhm.
And you're not looking to see exactly where are we today and how is it looking right now. Because a lot of those companies, if they had that 1 year set aside where they could continually pay their employees, take care of expenses, we would see less closed stores because you're still having the revenue come in, but the adjustment, the changes wouldn't be that drastic. We did a drastic change, and it shows that we, on a whole, we're not just individually financially weak.
Mhm.
Our companies, our financial structure, which is the businesses in our country, they are financially weak. And we have to start making changes in order to correct that.
Yeah, I mean, definitely agree. I mean, 2019 or 2020 into COVID-19 has really shown a lot of blemishes. So I know hopefully this year everyone's going to take better steps. But since it's a new year,
Yes, it's a new year, and let's start, planning different, and we can't change what we've lost.
Mhm.
You can never go back. And that's the thing with leadership. Whatever is lost, it's lost.
Mhm.
So, okay, this is where we are right now. And I know where we need to be.
Mhm.
So, what's the plan on working based on everything that we have right now? Forget what's gone. You've already lost that money. That money didn't come in. You didn't get, move on. Create a plan based on where you are currently. How can you start making these proper financial decisions? How can you put in place for yourself, which means you have to start getting, if you're a small business owner, you have to start paying yourself a monthly salary. And if you have a larger company, that means you need to start not just start planning, okay, how do I start putting aside money to
Mhm.
start saving, to create that emergency fund? So if stuff slows up 2 months from now, 3 months down the line, I'm not laying off half my workforce, which I really need.
Mhm.
So
Definitely.
we really have to start making better decisions to make ourselves stronger.
In conjunction to this conversation, I know that you
Mhm.
were also the co-host of a Money Mike show where you guys talked about financial principles and
Yes.
lessons. What are some financial lessons that you learned while being on the show?
Wow. There were so many, but one of the things that I really learned that really it helped me to understand not just myself, but people on a whole, it was we each have a money personality. The day I found that out, I was super happy because I could finally understand. No, I could read it. I was happy because my husband and myself was just like, I see a blue light, and he said me it's black, and I'm like, so it's not even navy blue. Why are you calling it? But as he started to show us, he showed me two great things that I learned was we each have a money personality, and our money personality is based on socioeconomically where we're from and how our family financial look like. So you can both have great dreams, and together you have a plan and you want to do this for your generation.
Mm-hmm.
But in working out the details, you butt head. And that was what was happening with me and my husband, because I'm just like, no, we have to do it this way. We have to have this here. We have to have this. And he's just like, no, we can spend this here and we will be okay because we're making this. And we kept going. And my whole thing with him a lot of times was, we have the same goal. How is it that we can have the same goal, but we're not agreeing on how we're going to do it? And once he started, he gave us this money personality test. And I was just like, oh my gosh, because while we were similar in some of the areas, in the other areas, we were totally different. Because I was the safe one. And he was the one who, okay, fine. We're making this, we're making progress. I can treat myself. And I'm just like, hold on, not yet. We can't treat ourselves just yet. But he explained to us that not because you have differences in money personalities mean you can't work together. It just means that you have to have a iron plan that knows that unless it goes outside of this, he said for the spender has to understand, because there's always going to be one who's a spender and one who's a saver. And the spender have to understand that this is the parameters that we've set. And in this parameters right here, unless we exceed it, we can't have things that give us immediate gratification. And once we understood that, and he understood that, hey, she is safe, she plays it safe. And I understand that if she doesn't have this in place, she's never gonna relax, then we're okay. So it's understanding. So that whole money personality, understanding our background and why we do what we do. Yeah, that for me, that was just like all the bulbs in the light, and all the light bulbs in the house went off, because I was just like, yes, it makes sense. But he didn't just show me as far as it making sense. He also gave me a solution on how both of us can still work together, still be on the same team, but it tweaks different because each person money personality is different.
That's interesting. That's a good idea. I'll check my money
Yep.
personality. Never heard of that. That makes a lot of sense. It's like, that's why a lot of people get divorces.
That's wicked, right? Because they're seeing, and you know what he said, he was just like, for every client he had who came to him with issues financially, because he was a CPA. So he said once he did that test with them and he gave them a plan, it's just like everybody was happy because they each understood the other and what the other needed.
I like that.
Yeah.
Save imagine everybody with a money personality test.
Definitely. So, but I'll share. I do have some information. So, I'll share that information with you also.
Awesome.
Yes, sir.
What are some techniques or strategies that have helped you succeed through difficult times?
This is not how my story ends. That has been my number one thing. On my worst day, when it seems as if everything is falling apart, I have to remind myself that this is not how my story ends. The vision I have for myself, the vision I have for my family, for my bloodline, that has me in it, it looks a whole lot better than this that I'm looking at right now. So once I can get that in and I can remind myself of that, I pull myself together. And I'll lay on the floor for a minute or two. And then I get myself back up together. Okay, if this is where I am right now, what do I need to do to get back in the game? And that's pretty much what it is. We have to get to the point where we understand that things going bad, it's part of the landscape of life. For every beautiful manicured lawn that you see, there is a point where there are weeds in it that has to be treated. There was a point that they had to scrape that entire area and put new, whether they're going to do seeds or sod, they had to redo it. And even sometimes in the process where it looks great and everything is going great, you have to clean the whole thing because you know what? It's a season where I have to come in with something new. The flowers that bloom in spring, they'll never survive in winter. So just understand that life is literally, just as we see the seasons outside, they change. Our life is like that. And wherever you are, that is not the destination. As long as you're breathing, if you can assess everything that's happening around you, that's not how your story ends. Pick it up, pick the plan back up, see where you are, see where you made a mistake. Sometimes it's not that we made a mistake. Sometimes it's just that our timing, we got to a certain destination before everything was in that place that we needed. It's about time because our life also has to do with timing and alignment. So get up, look back on the plan. Okay, this is where I am. What do I need? How can I continue? And for me, that has always been my thing. I'm down today. It's okay. Give me a day. I'm going to be up tomorrow like nothing happened. So that has been my greatest thing. My husband tells me all the time, he's just like, your memory for the bad is so short. It's as if you forget what happened before. It's not that I forget, I just refuse to focus on it.
Yeah, I think that's so important. Yeah, I call that like adapting short-term memory loss, which is good in some respects. So that's how my coach used to train us for basketball, because we were trying to expand our game, and so we needed to I used to really focus on my last shot, and so throughout the game plays after, he'd see me affect me. It's like, no, once you shoot that shot, forget it. Look for the next one. Yeah, so you can't change it. Just move forward. It makes a lot of sense, man. And it definitely does help. But it's so hard sometimes because humans are so emotional. We just want to cling on to whatever that thing was. But it's like,
yes,
let it go.
Yes, and that's the thing. As long as we cling on to it, and when we cling on to it, we can cling on to it for strength, or we can cling on to it in fear. And when we do that initial cling, whatever emotion that we exert at that moment, forever, that event is going to be attached with that emotion. It's just like when something good happened, we're like, oh my God, I felt so happy. Oh my God, I remember. But it was something, man, that just really hit me. And it was just like really hard. And 20 years later, you're telling the story, but you're telling the story with the same emotion because you've never separated your emotions from the event. And that's what we have to stop doing. And that way we can move through hurdles a whole lot faster than we currently do.
I definitely agree.
Yeah.
What are some project management lessons that you have learned from having a contracting business?
Your timeline doesn't matter. I learned something early on, and we were doing a project, and the part that I did not, when I submitted the proposal, I did not factor in that I needed city inspectors, one, to come out. I did not factor in that there were subcontractors who needed to do a portion of it.
Mhm.
So I knew, okay, subcontractors needed to do this.
Mhm.
And yes, we know the city needs to come out. But I failed at calculating their timeline.
Mhm.
I was focused on my timeline and how long it's going to take us to do it, and how long and the timeline we would like to have it completed in.
Mhm.
And that's something that we get caught up with a lot. We have our timeline. And in our timeline, we don't consider the unknowns. It's like
Mhm.
that whole X and Y, find X and Y. You don't calculate your X and Y because you're doing it from your perspective,
Mhm.
because this is when it needs to be done. So what I've learned over the from that is when I have any project where I have to have a third party involved, whether it be getting equipment, it could be getting supplies, it can be getting delivered done, it can be ordering something. I have to consider their timeline that they're going to give me. And then I have to add give and take for things that no one can control. So that has been one of my biggest. So now I do everything different. I do it differently now, totally. I prefer telling you this project is going to take you 5 weeks, and I finish in 2.5, versus I tell you it's going to be complete in 2.5, and it takes 5 weeks. And COVID has also been another reminder of how life can quickly change. I mean, I ordered something recently for another business that I do. I ordered some supplies to get some stuff made, and I ordered it. I did Express. Express was supposed to get here in 2 days. 6 days later, still waiting on the product. So you know, we have to consider third party when they're involved, and what their timeline is, and be very clear, and place it's okay to put contingencies in, that I can only give you this timeline if this and this gets done on time, and just being upfront. That's the greatest thing.
That's a good lesson. Yeah, I learned that the hard way too. I was trying to get my short-term rental set up because I was having a designer and her team come do everything. But like I was anticipating to get her in this day. I didn't get her this other day, so I was like, dang it, they need to get in the unit that quickly. Then it took some time to get
And
all the
then
supplies and stuff. It's like, damn,
definitely,
it took longer,
yep.
so it's wasting more money.
There you go. There you go. So we have to be very cognizant of what's happening around us at all times. And you know, it's always better to under promise and over deliver, because nobody hates someone who over promise and under deliver. It's the worst thing ever. It's as if it's a black eye that just never goes away.
Yeah, I definitely.
Yeah.
What's one takeaway you've gotten from being a leader?
It's not just my opinion that matters. And by myself, one, I can't do it by myself. And two, I have to consider everyone involved. Because the greatest turn off to people who you're leading, it's when you do not take into consideration their feelings. Now, taking their feelings in consideration, it doesn't mean that you're going to do everything that makes them feel comfortable. That's just never going to happen. You're going to hurt their feelings, because as a leader, you have to push them beyond their own boundaries. But it's great when you listen to them and you let them know, I hear you, I understand what you're saying. I'll try to consider what you're saying as we move forward. However, understand this. And people have to, we have to be able to be very clear with that. But sometimes we're just like, I don't, I've heard leaders like, I really don't care how you feel. Their feelings are not my priority. It's not your priority, but you still owe them the respect to listen to them and to hear because sometimes in listening to them, it may not be that you change what you do, but it means sometimes it can mean you tweak what you do so it is more, it is accepted on a wider platform than if you just went about it the way you saw it. So that for me has been one of my greatest takeaways. It's not just about me.
No, I definitely agree. When you're taking others' pains, it makes it feel more welcoming and caring. And that's what we need to. More ideas, the better. I mean, there's more than one solution to get, one way to get a solution. When people think like, oh, it's only one way to do it. We gotta do this way. Lifestyles do this too, So.
And it's my way or the highway. Those are some of the things that I just don't understand why people say that. Like, what do you mean by it's just your way or the highway? Like, people will leave. Like, you do understand. people will leave. So I've heard some of the craziest things. Like, wow, you said that, and you said that out loud. Right? Okay. So you'd be surprised some of the things that I've heard, but definitely.
If a niece or nephew was, say, about their age of 10 or 12, they come up to you and ask you, what do I need to do to be the best leader that I can be? What would you say?
Two things. It's two, but it's one. And it's listening. Because listening means you're going to listen to other individuals, enhance your listening skills. Because sometimes you can have a child and a child will come to you and the child will be, my head hurt. But all you'll hear is they're feeling pain. But sometimes if you listen a little bit more, you'll hear, my head hurt. It's not really that my head hurt. I just want attention. Can I get a hug? And when you listen to people, as you develop your listening skills, you'll start to hear what they're not saying, but you'll hear what they need. So you can do that by conversations, basic listening, and by reading. Like every leader has to be a reader. And we all know reading is just, you're having a conversation with the author, but you're just, because as you're reading what that author has written, you're actually processing in your head what they're saying. It's not that, you're not just, so that's why sometimes you'll have someone read and it's just like, oh, you're just reading words. You're just reciting the words. That's why we say that, because, they're just repeating the words. Nothing is really being absorbed. But as you read, reading is a form of listening. So at the top of the list, it would be improve your listening skill. Be a great listener.
On that note about books, what is your favorite leadership book?
Oh my God. That one is hard. I thought about that one. I was just like, my favorite leadership book. There are so many. I like them for different reasons. But one of them that I think is most important is by John Maxwell. Yes. And sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. Because we have to understand, as we said before, every day is not a winning day. But there is no day that you should not learn something new. So let's say you made a meal today and it didn't come out right. Like, man, that was awful. I just failed at that. No, you just learned, what did you do wrong? Did you add too much water? Did you not add enough water? Next time you need to add more salt. So it's learning. It's the same thing. Sometimes in leadership, you'll have a meeting and you just let your emotions get the better of you. And you think that, man, I really failed at that. Like, I was just bad. Not realizing that you just walked away knowing that, okay, the next time I go into a meeting like this and someone says something like this, or I got a news or a report that I wasn't expecting, I need to now respond differently. So we're always learning. So that's, for me, that would be my number one recommendation for leadership book. It's sometimes you win and sometimes you learn, because that's what life is. It's just a continuous event of experience and lessons. What did I learn from this experience? I go to the next experience with that wisdom, and I know that the results will be better.
You tell me I don't win every single day? That's so depressing.
No, you don't. And that's the thing, like, that's why we need it. Like, you're gonna fail, like, you're gonna do horrible some days, like, oh my God, like, yeah. Like for me, like some days it's just like, we expect every day that we're supposed to be on the mountaintop. And it's just like, really? I wouldn't really want that life where every day, because how would I know what it really is? It's just like, now we can't go outside. We can't see our friends. We can't see our families as we want to see them. So the memories are even sweeter. Oh, you remember when we did this? You remember when we did that? That's what life is about. The ups and the downs that makes it fun. Like a roller coaster.
Definitely agree with that. And I know you're starting a new podcast, which I'm really excited to start listening to. Can you tell us about it? And how can we learn more about it?
Definitely. So the name of the podcast is I Quit. It's going to be available on, all the podcast platforms. Why I did it. So why I did it was I started writing down. So I got to tell you the backstory. I wrote a book. I wrote a book that I have not yet published. And that book is called Unlocking the Cash Vault Within You. Okay, so that's the name of the book. So in it, I literally went through and I talk about things that I had to unlearn to be where I am today. And I went through them one at a time. And so at the end of the year, I was going through, and as I was, we're going through the edits in the book. And I was just like, okay, so this is great. I did the book, but a lot of people don't read. They don't have the time.
Mhm.
But we're always listening to something. We're watching the video, we're hearing. So I was just like, okay, now is the time to launch my podcast. And I just wanted to start out with the I quit. And I titled it I quit because I quit things that was okay by society. It's not, they're not all bad and horrible things, but it's the little things that we do that takes away our time. It takes away our focus. It takes away our money. And they're okay, and some of them are encouraged by society. But if you really want to live your life on the next level, you have to quit them. You have to put a stop in them. So I literally, I talk about, I have a couple episodes that I have recorded. So it rolls out January 18th will be the first episode that I'm going to release. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The January 18, the links will be below. And do you have, in your podcast, do you have a podcast about how to quit COVID?
Oh boy, I wish I could. All I, for me, this is what I tell everyone around me that's close to me. COVID is here. We're dealing with it. So the only thing we can do is to protect ourselves. Yes, I do wear my mask, but apart from that, I'm about the health part of it. I take my supplements, and we don't like taking it. We have to take our vitamins, our multivitamins, or vitamin C, vitamin D, saying these are the things that they're showing that helps people who've had it. And it has helped them to recover. So let's do it. Let's do the research. I wish I had that magic pill to give, because I had so many plans for 2020. Oh my gosh. I had so many plans for 2020, and it's just like, is this serious? Like, is this really happening? Yeah. I thought after the lockdown was lifted that we're going to be okay. And it didn't happen.
Yeah.
It didn't happen.
That's all too.
Yeah. I know, man. I know. It's been a tough year, but we've made it. We've made it through 2020. We're in 2021. And what we need to do as leaders is to evolve with the time. So this is definitely the time for us to all evolve and become the best version of ourselves. And just keep focus, keep your eye on that image that you have, that dream that you have of yourself. Keep focus of that dream. And as long as where you are today do not look like that dream, get right up and start all over again. Keep it going.
Amen to that. That's a good way to enter this interview.
That's it.
Well, today has been such a very insightful interview, and it's real great to talk with you, Keisha. Hope you as an audience have liked this, and go listen to her podcast called January 18th, and hope you guys stay safe and stay healthy, and we'll see you guys next time.
Sure. Thanks for having me. It was great talking to you. Have a great one.